Happy Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Morning JOX here on your Tuesday morning. Conrad Van Order and Damian Mitchell here with you for the next hour as we have finally had a decision made in the Charles Bediako case, weeks in the making now. And we finally know what the future will hold for both him and Alabama, at least an immediate future for him and Alabama basketball. We've got Auburn on the hardwood later on tonight as well. So we've got a lot going on around the Southeastern Conference in the world of college hoops, and we are here to talk about it. So we appreciate you making us a part of your morning each and every day right here on the show. So let's hit the ground running, Damian, with the breaking news that we got last night. So we remember just kind of going back through the timeline of the last few days. On last Thursday, last week, Bediako and his legal team had filed to essentially extend or delay his court hearing until February the 16th, which would be next Monday. And that would have given him the ability to play in 3 more games for Alabama without having to worry about his eligibility status. The NCAA came out and said, we don't think there's any reason to delay the hearing. We think it should probably go ahead and go on. The judge in the Tuscaloosa courthouse said, yep, you know what? I think the NCAA is right. No reason to, keep pushing this or kicking the can down the road. So let's take care of it on Friday. And so they did. They had a hearing on Friday. We all eagerly awaited the results ahead of the Iron Bowl of basketball on Saturday. We did not get those results until yesterday. So he played on Saturday. Alabama won. And now yesterday, the judge ruled that Charles Bediako was his lawsuit or his legal battle will be denied, and he will be ruled ineligible for the University of Alabama basketball team starting now. So he will not be available tomorrow against Ole Miss, and he will not be available at any point moving forward for the rest of the 2025-2026 college basketball season. So we have 3 statements on this matter. So we have the NCAA. They released a statement last night. You have the University of Alabama. They released their own statement last night. And then, of course, we have head coach Nate Oates, who conveniently, hey, coach was last night. So had an opportunity to kind of give some immediate reaction to all of this. So I'm just going to read you. This is what was said last night. These are the statements that were put out. We'll start off with the NCAA and President Charlie Baker. Quote, common sense won around today. The court saw this for what it is, an attempt by professionals to pivot back to college and crowd out the next generation of students. College sports are for students, not people who already walked away to go pro and now want to hit the undo button at the expense of a teenager's dream. While we're glad the court upheld the rules our members actually want, one win doesn't fix the national mess of state laws. It's time for Congress to stop watching from the sidelines and help us provide some actual stability. End quote. Well, that would make me believe that they're now going to look into international professionals coming over here, right? Right? Because
it's going to be a shakeup.
In this statement, he's worried about taking away from teenagers, but they have no problem with 24-year-old kid from Lithuania coming over here and playing basketball.
That is true.
But we're drawing the line on Charles. Again, if that's where we're drawing the line right now, fine, so be it. I didn't think he should have been allowed to play in the first place, but let's remember that there is a bigger issue at play here that needs to be resolved.
100%.
And I said that tongue-in-cheek. I don't think they're going to do crap about this.
No.
That was a joke on my part. But anyways, that was the NCAA. That was President Charlie Baker, his statement last night. Common sense won around today, according to him, in the world of college athletics. Now the University of Alabama. This is their statement. Quote, we're disappointed in today's court ruling denying the injunction for Charles Bediako. While we understand the concern around competitive and developmental implications of former professional athletes participating in college, it's important to acknowledge reality. The NCAA has granted eligibility to over 100 current men's basketball players with prior professional experience either in the G League or overseas. Granting eligibility to some former professionals and not others is what creates the havoc we are currently in and why consistency from decision makers is so desperately needed. Okay, not surprising that was their response either, right?
Seems like a firm stance.
I think we can all agree that, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
It's par for the course.
Kind of makes sense. And now for Nate Oates. And I'm not going to read all of this because this was, again, from his radio show last night, and we'd be here for 6 or 7 minutes of me just reading this, and I don't think you want me to do that. But this is part of what Nate Oates said on Hey Coach last night. Quote, obviously super disappointed in the whole thing, to be honest with you. I didn't think it ever should have gone to court. I thought the NCAA should have made him eligible based on over 100 current college basketball players, former pros, most of them over in Europe, some in the G League, guys being drafted, rights owned by NBA teams, as in James Najee being eligible to play. I thought it was kind of a no-brainer with the NCAA, then I didn't think it would be much of an issue. The NCAA hasn't really changed much without courts forcing them to change. I thought the courts would see in the inconsistencies in the rulings and agree with Charles' attorneys. He would then go on and bring up the fact that change is going to be needed on the professional front because, again, from the eligibility standpoint, coming back after going professional, all that stuff, again, I understand. I'm not a big fan of doing that. And I wasn't a fan of this whole situation when it started, but it has brought up a very important and interesting conversation where, okay, if we're going to protect the integrity of college athletics, and a big part of that being eligibility rules and making sure that we're not phasing out the 18, 19-year-old high school kids, right? That's great. I think all of that's great. But again, then we just need better guidelines and better standards to where the game doesn't just become, because if you continue down this trend, 90% of every Division I men's basketball roster in the future is going to be a kid from Europe that's 23 years old. Mm-hmm. Because why would you gamble on an 18-year-old kid who you might have to develop for 2 or 3 years when you can go get a guy that's been playing professional basketball for the last 6 years, come over here, and then, yeah, your Cooper Flags of the world, those kinds of guys will still have an opportunity. But, I mean, is that the world that we want? That's not the world I want to live in, and I don't think that's the world the NCAA wants to live in. So they're going to have to figure this stuff out. I'm not surprised at all that this happened, that Charles Bediako got denied. It definitely seemed like it had shifted in that direction. But I do ultimately wonder as well, if Greg Sankey didn't do what he did last week, is this the same decision that we got? And in my personal opinion, I do not think that it is. So thank you, Greg Sankey, for once again continuing to defy one of the most important institutions. By the way, they are kind of your boss. So I'm glad to know where the University of Alabama stands with Greg Sankey on this Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I do think that if Greg Sankey hadn't said anything, I think the court of public opinion would still kind of weigh heavily in this decision. I'm with you. How, again, maybe this is the first domino to fall that there's going to be some sort of stabilization as far as what is considered, what eligibility rules are in NCAA. But again, I'm with you. It's, how can you say a 21-year-old from, a foreign country that's been playing professional basketball since he's been, 16? Because most of them can go pro at 16. How can they come to America and also play college ball where Charles Bediako, and again, he hasn't stepped foot in the actual NBA. Like, he was in the G League. So it was kind of, I look at it from this perspective. If he had stepped on an NBA floor, like he had played for the San Antonio Spurs or the Detroit Pistons, then yeah, we would have a different conversation, because at that point you are an actual professional. Because we've seen cases in other sports, like Brandon Whedon, he was a professional baseball player, and he got to come back at 29 years old and play college football. So I think, and I understand for Charles' sake, it's one of those things where he saw an opportunity, and there was not a rule that said that he couldn't come back to college and play. He's still pursuing his degree. But I think when he made his announcement to forego his eligibility to go to potentially go to the NBA, I can understand that. Like, you willingly gave that up. So I can understand kind of both sides of it, of, hey, well, you chose this. Like, you chose this. These are the decisions that you made. So you got to suffer the consequences. But also, if the NCAA at this time, up until the ruling, basically was like, well, you kind of can, I guess. Like, nobody really had any sort of direction or structure on what the actual rules are. So, it had to come to a court decision. And kind of to your point, you kind of read the tea leaves the past couple weeks of, okay, it's starting to trend that he's going to be deemed ineligible at some point by the court of law. So, I think that, one, it was a whole, I think it's more of a PR mess because of a situation that, and then everybody's saying that, oh, they need to forfeit games that he's played in. Man, you went 3-2. It kind of, I don't necessarily think your record would be much different had he played or not. So now you're kind of going back to what it was like before he played with you, and you were still in a pretty good spot if you're the University of Alabama. So yeah. I think the NCAA, whether they got it right, they can pat themselves on the back to saying, hey, we're trying to fix these things. But okay, well, there's a lot more that's on your plate now moving forward because of this decision that you made.
I was about to say it was an easy win for them in the sense of it's they can stand up and go, look, we stood up for something and we got to win, right? The NCAA badly needs that in terms of, like positive PR. And that's great for them. But again, it's if this is going to be the way it is, I'm perfectly fine with that. But just make sure that this isn't the stopping point, right? This isn't we got that win. Whew, all right. Let's hope this doesn't happen again. Let's go back to the drum, go back and do whatever we do at the NCAA. Like, if this is the reason that you continue to work towards guidelines and work towards, what are some regulations for bringing over in terms of, is it an age limit, right? Is it a cap on how many European players you can have on your team in a given year? Whatever ultimately that is, as long as we're moving towards a solution, I'm okay with that. I just don't have any confidence that we're actually going to get anything done out of this, and we're just going to continue talking about it. And again, I guess that's what I go back to with the whole Bediako thing in the first place. I 100% agree with the perspective of he gave up his eligibility because he thought he was good enough to go pro, and he wasn't. And in that instance, I don't think you should be allowed to come back to college. You made your decision. He made his decision. It didn't work out for him. He wasn't good enough. Your punishment is you have to go get a real job, just like the rest of us. I have no problem with that. That's how I personally think it should be. But we also live in a world where, let's be honest, people just kind of try things, and if you don't get called out for it, then it's fair game. And Alabama tried that, and it worked for a little bit, and now they're getting, and now they're facing the consequences for it in the form of not having Charles Bediako available. I will say this before we move on. I think the next question a lot of people might have is, okay, so does Alabama have to vacate those wins? Like Damian was talking about, what happens in terms of those wins? How does the NCAA evaluate them in terms of the committee for the tournament? And so this is from John Rothstein. He tweeted this out last night, obviously covers college basketball as good as anyone out there. But this is from an NCAA official. Quote, the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee will evaluate Alabama for the 2026 NCAA tournament by the roster that it has available for March Madness. That to me would indicate that they're not going to punish Alabama in the sense of take away the wins that they earned, I guess, with Charles. But they're just going to evaluate the team for what they are in a month, which is Alabama minus Charles Bediako, which is...
We've already seen.
Correct.
Yeah, we've seen what they were.
Because I saw some people that are, they're going to leave Alabama out because they don't have Bediako, and so they're going to judge them different. I'm like, it was Auburn fan. Like, obviously, they're really trying to make it into something that it's not. No, they're clearly telling you they're going to evaluate the team that would be playing in the tournament, which will be the Alabama team we have, minus Charles Bediako.
Right. And there's more tape of Alabama without Charles Bediako than there is with Charles Bediako.
Yeah, and to be fair, like the best that they looked at times this year was without Charles Bediako, right? So,
right.
Who knows? Maybe this was just something that they needed to, iron out some kinks in the armor there with the team here in SEC play. But yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. This will be a very interesting footnote in the history of Alabama basketball, to say the least. But I know in a lot of people's minds today, some people disappointed, but a lot of people feeling like justice was served in the world of college basketball, as Charles Bediako has been denied his eligibility, and he will not play for the rest of the season for Nate Oates and the Alabama Crimson Tide. But we do have basketball coming up tonight. We've got Auburn. They're hitting the hardwood later on tonight. We also have the latest bracketology. Where do both Auburn and Alabama stand as it is right now after the IBOB on Saturday? A lot of SEC ball left to go, but which teams are trending up, which teams are trending down. We'll bring you the latest bracketology, preview Auburn and Vanderbilt next on JOX. 6:21 here on your Tuesday morning. Welcome back into Morning Jocks. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you until 7 o'clock. If you're just now joining us, the big news, Charles Bediako denied by a local judge in Tuscaloosa yesterday, as he will now be ruled ineligible for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they will continue on this season without Charles Bediako. So we will see how that affects them tomorrow when they will take on the Ole Miss Rebels there in Oxford. That'll be our first chance to see Alabama again without Charles Bediako. We saw it for about, 15 games or so to start the season, and then the last 5 he's been in, and now he will be out. So that is the big news, and some of you chiming in, 205-834-9450 on the Courtesy GMC text line. Would love to hear your thoughts on everything with Charles Bediako. Has justice finally been served in your eyes, or is this just a maybe an easy win for the NCAA, but we're not really confronting the bigger issue at hand here? I'm sure there's a lot of people, a lot of time that we will spend discussing that moving forward. I did also want to quickly share, if you want to go on Twitter, we do have a 3-man front, actually, emergency poll question that went out last night. And it has a ton of votes on it. It has maybe the most votes we've ever gotten in a poll question before. But it just reads, should Alabama be required to forfeit the 3 wins they accumulated while Bediako was playing? And 65% of you have said no, he had a temporary restraining order, so they shouldn't. And then 35% of you, though, think that Alabama should have to vacate, whatever you want to call it, the wins that they got under Bediako.
I've never really got on board with the whole vacating wins thing. Like did
you watch the game with your own eyes?
Thank you.
I saw him score more points.
And that's what it bothers me to my core of. Okay, so you're willing to accept the fact that, hey, you won on a technicality instead of what we saw with our own 2 eyes. Like I've seen the 3 wins that Alabama's gotten with Charles Bediako. Also seen the 2 losses. So it doesn't really, to me, it kind of just goes to show you don't necessarily need them, and you don't necessarily. And we've seen what Alabama's been without him.
Maybe the worst game they played all year was Florida, and they had him. So
right.
Maybe they're worse with Charles Bediako. I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Oh boy, like we've seen the results. We've seen this.
Yeah, but people, we gotta get mad about something.
Got to.
Absolutely got to. Well, hopefully Auburn fans won't be mad tonight, because they're playing basketball against the number 19 ranked Vanderbilt Commodores. That'll be at Neville Arena tonight, a 6 o'clock tip. You can hear the game right here on JOX. Auburn a 3.5-point favorite as it stands right now. So Auburn, they're 14-9 overall, 5-5 in SEC play. Vanderbilt 19-4 overall, 6-4 in SEC play. You also have tonight at 8 o'clock on the SEC network, you have number 21 Arkansas at LSU. There, Arkansas 7-3 in conference play, really playing good basketball here as of late. So again, Alabama, they will be in action tomorrow night. Auburn in action tonight against Vanderbilt at 6 o'clock here on JOX. And for a quick look, if you're wondering, after the IBOB, how did that maybe impact bracketology, where are Alabama and Auburn both trending to as it stands right now? So I can tell you the latest that we got from Joe Lunardi, and this would have come out after Alabama's win over Auburn. And that would be, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that would be Alabama is a 5 seed, and Auburn right now is looking at an 8 seed. So obviously still plenty of time to move things up there. Rocco Miller, the bracketeer, you can hear him on 3-Man Front every week, does a great job. Statistically the best bracketologist out there the last couple of years, actually. He's got Auburn as an 8 seed and Alabama as a 4 seed. Joe Lunardi had Alabama as a 5 seed. But right now, according to Rocco, Auburn, the 8 seed, they would be playing Wisconsin, a 9 seed, in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And it looks like that game would be taking place in Philadelphia. The unfortunate part of this is the next game would be against the number 1 seed in that region, and that would be UConn.
Oh, boy.
Who, again, is very, very good this year.
They are.
So that would be fun for
Oates and Hurley.
That would be not super fun for Auburn, maybe. But
oh, yeah, my fault. I thought you were talking about Alabama.
Oh, yeah. No, you're good. But yeah, so Auburn, they would play Wisconsin. Again, this is just projected bracket from Rocco. So nothing set in stone, obviously. But right now, it's just fun to look. Auburn would take on Wisconsin. The winner of that game would then take on UConn unless Morgan State, pulled off the upset of the century. I'm going to go ahead and pencil in UConn into the round of 32, though. And then if you were to get past UConn, you would most likely play either Virginia or Texas Tech. Get some revenge on Virginia for all those years ago.
And that's the thing, man. Like when it comes to, especially when it gets to tournament time, like I don't think Auburn's style, as far as a regular season, is going to be pretty. But I think they're good enough to muddy some games up in the tournament where you just have to be better than that team that one day.
Yeah,
and I think they've got to find somebody besides Keyshawn Hall. And again, Todd Pettiford, as of Alabama, like he's starting. He at least showed us that he's still.
Yeah, he played well
it.
the other night.
Yeah, so I think their style helps them in a tournament setting because they can kind of wear people down. Like the SEC tournament, I think is going to be interesting for Auburn because you can tell me that they found themselves in a championship game, and I would believe you. Like, yeah, the games got a little physical. They were able to use their athleticism. And it can kind of carry game to game.
Yeah.
But the shot making is like it is the only issue that I have. It's okay if they have to live and die and get into a shootout with somebody, it just does not bode well in their favor. But because I go back and I remember the Texas A&M game, and yeah, the press for Texas A&M kind of kept them afloat, and they ended up winning it there as of late in later on in the game. But the physicality and the athleticism that Auburn has keeps them within a striking chance of beating teams and actual good teams as well. So as long as it doesn't make it into like a shootout, I don't think that Auburn is I wouldn't want to play Auburn in a tournament setting because I think that is one of those games where you kind of have to bank on your shots going in because if they don't, they can out-athlete you for a good period of the ball game and find a way to win late.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So looking at Alabama for a second here before we move on, you have Alabama. They would be a 4 seed. They would play UNC Wilmington in the first round. The winner of that matchup would then most likely take on North Carolina. And then if you were to get past North Carolina and make it to the Sweet 16 at that point, potentially you are looking at either Duke or probably the winner of Villanova and Texas A&M there for Alabama. So maybe a little bit of an easier path, but certainly a difficult one nonetheless. But again, according to Joe Lunardi, Alabama is a 5 seed, Auburn an 8 seed. According to Rocco Miller, he has Alabama as a 4 seed right now. He has Auburn as an 8 seed. And then Auburn would most likely, if they were to win their first matchup, face UConn. Alabama, if they were to win their first matchup, would most likely face North Carolina with a trip to the Sweet 16 on the line. But of course, we'll keep you up to date everything going on with bracketology because that changes each and every day around college basketball. But before we move off of that discussion entirely, did want to quickly mention last night you did have one big game going on, and that was Arizona and Kansas. Arizona, they lost their first game of the season last night, so they're now 23-1. Kansas gets by them 82-78. Did it without Darren Peterson, their best player. So really, really impressive win there for Kansas.
That was a good game too.
It was, yeah. It was a really good game. Came down to the wire, and for Arizona, right, the reality of it is this probably helps you more than anything because, I mean, we remember that Kentucky team a few years ago that went undefeated all the way to the championship game, and sometimes it's kind of good just to get that monkey off your back and take that loss in the regular season. But a big one for Kansas there nonetheless. Arizona, they now fall to 23-1, and Miami, Ohio is the only undefeated team left in college basketball.
I had a feeling going into the season that Miami of Ohio was going to be one of those.
Well, you're a Big Ben guy, so.
Yeah. Huge Roethlisberger guy, especially over Eli Manning. But the MAC, man, it's tough. That's a tough conference to come out, unscathed, and Miami of Ohio's defying the odds, man.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So good for the Red Hawks, right?
They are.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I got a punter from there not too long ago.
Place kicker.
Yeah, my fault.
Thank you.
One of them specialists. Yeah, I had to go poach him out of the MAC.
Yeah,
man was just getting ready for a game on a Tuesday, and Alabama comes calling on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I think he made like $100K for every field goal he made that year, probably if you did the math. But whatever. Everything's better in Ohio. I don't know, whatever they say up there. Anyways, moving on. That's what's going on in the world of college basketball. But we have a bunch of you that have wanted to chime in, both on the courtesy GMC text line as well as the phone lines, 205-834-9450. Your thoughts, your reaction to the Charles Bediako news, maybe a score prediction if you have one for Auburn and Vanderbilt tonight. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll go there next on Morning Jocks. Appreciate you joining us here on the Tuesday edition of Morning Jocks. Conrad and Damien here with you until 7 o'clock, when we'll hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. About to get your reaction on the Charles Bediako news that he has been deemed ineligible. His injunction denied yesterday evening, and so for the foreseeable future, he will not be able to play for the University of Alabama. It will be interesting to see if there are further legal matters that could be taken. Had an interesting conversation with Mike Rodak from Bama 247 at the end of last week on three-man front, where he had presented the possibility of, maybe there's another legal route you could go to get him eligible ahead of next season, and he could play the entirety of. Again, these are just things that could potentially, not saying that that would be guaranteed to happen or anything, but there is a belief that there might be other avenues that Alabama would look at, going down. But we'll wait and see about all of that. Enough legal stuff there. We've got enough on our plate right now with the whole Charles Bediako situation as it currently stands. But before we get to your reaction, your calls, your texts, want to tell you that this Sunday, February the 15th, the UAB Blazers are going to be hosting the Bartow Classic at Bartow Arena, and they will be hosting their rival, the Tulane Green Wave. Tickets are available right now at uabsports.com. Tip-off is going to be this Sunday at 1 p.m. Again, that's UAB versus Tulane at Bartow Arena, and you can get 2 tickets along with 2 $10 concession vouchers for $45 right now. $2 from every ticket sold will also go to benefit the Gene Bartow Fund for Cancer Research. So again, UAB versus Tulane in the Bartow Classic this Sunday, February the 15th at Bartow Arena. Go get your tickets right now at uabsports.com. All right, let's start off on the phone lines here because we've had some people very patiently waiting to get in on the conversation. Let's go to Nate. He wants to chime in on Bediako this morning. How we doing, Nate?
Doing all right. Bruce Pearl was considered to be a pretty, shady dude, but I think I got to give it to Nate Oates. I think he may take the reins for one of the scummiest people coaching college basketball. The dude is just a slime ball. He's a used car salesman, and you guys are a joke for defending this. I mean, this is blatant cheating. He should have to forfeit every game he played in.
How is it cheating? He was eligible. Okay, so Nate is obviously an Auburn fan that doesn't understand rules. All right, JT is up next. What's up, JT?
Hey, good morning, guys. Preface this to say I'm an Alabama fan. Did not really want Alabama to get way into this situation, but at the same time, I understand the unfairness of it.
Yeah.
However, to me, the underlying issue about this whole situation is it again proves the NCAA is impotent. If you go back and read the statement they released yesterday, one of the sentences said it's time for Congress to step in and regulate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, it's not time for Congress to step in. If you're the governing body, which the NCAA is supposed to be of college sports, they need to govern. This is how we got where we are with in football with the transfer portal and NIL. NCAA, it kept waiting for Congress to step in and do something. That's not Congress's job, and the last thing we want is a legislative body from the government to step in and try to correct this situation. The NCAA needs to step in and regain their control of the sport, or they need to step out and let the colleges run wild because they are not taking care of college football, college basketball. They're waiting for the courts to step in and make decisions where they should be making these decisions.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, JT. I appreciate the call this morning. The reality with the NCAA, though, is, it's what he said to start with, right? It's that they're impotent. And so I feel like they're at a point now where you can't really go back, right? Because everyone's kind of seen them for what they are now and how weak they are, generally speaking, again, outside of the NCAA tournament. That's really all that. And they do a great job with that. And we appreciate them putting that on every year. But outside of that, they don't really have control over a lot of things. And there's no way of giving that back to them. And so, and that's where, you hear a lot of people bring up, well, you need to get Congress involved. And maybe that is something that would have to happen just because, again, like you literally don't have anybody, Charlie Baker is not going to be the leader of college athletics that people want, right? There's going to have to be somebody, and I don't know who it is that can kind of overhaul the entire system. And it's going to take a lot of people working together to make that happen. And the NCAA just isn't that. So.
And also, And listen, everybody's gonna have their opinions, and I think both of us have done a pretty good job of being open-minded, very transparent. You opened up and said, like, I didn't want Alabama to be in this position anyway.
No, but
you
they did
clearly said this. And also, we're not defending Nate Oates. The NCAA, up until the ruling, had no sort of guidelines as far as eligibility is required.
If the NCAA was serious, you know what they would have done? They would have immediately said he's ineligible to play and he wouldn't have played.
Thank you.
But guess what? They can't do that because nobody listens to them because they're a joke.
Thank you. So it's not the fact that Nate Oates is cheating. He's literally just like, hey, well, there's not a rule saying that you can't. Well, if you are here, we could try to work a restraining order. And the judge denied it. Like, Greg Sankey stepped up and said, hey, you know what? Nah, we need to protect the integrity of the NCAA. He's doing the NCAA's bidding for them. Like, the commissioner of the league had to step up and say, hey, man, I hope y'all don't rule in favor of Charles Bediako. Like, because it's going to open a can of worms. And it's the worms are already open. Like, there's no stability and there's no sort of direction that the NCAA is going. It's basically a case-by-case basis because some people can say they have eligibility, other people cannot. We're just trying to, like, work around the gray area of, okay, let's just find some consistency from this point forward. And also, how about I wish more people had the Todd Golden mindset. He was like, hey, okay, Nate Oates is looking for a competitive advantage. I understand.
We're going to beat him.
We're going to beat him. It doesn't matter if Charles Bediako, he can go get Brandon Miller, Mark Sears. He can go back and get Latrell Sprewell. We don't care. We going to beat him. Like, how about we have that mindset? Because, again, there were two teams that beat Alabama in the same breath as the three teams that Alabama beat with Charles Bediako. So, to me, it's whether he's out there or not, how about your team go out there and beat them? It wasn't, to me, I don't think
he didn't come back and average 30 points a game.
At all. At all. So, it's to me, it's more of a mentality of who you are as to say that, okay, yeah, we can't. If you want to say that they need to vacate these wins, so be it. There's three of them. There are 3 wins, but also we've seen what Alabama is without Charles Bediako. So it's not like he is going to just throw a cog in the machine that's already, they've already played. Like, they've played more ball without Charles Bediako than they did with Charles Bediako.
It's just funny because, again, I understand that this whole thing's messy, but there's so many people right now that are chiming in and are saying, y'all don't understand the rules. No, you don't understand the rules because there are no rules. Like, you're trying to put rules on something that there aren't rules on. Charles Bediako played because he was eligible to play. If he wasn't eligible, he couldn't have played. You don't have to like the rules. You don't have to agree with it. He was eligible to play in those 5 games, which is why he played. That was within the rules of what college basketball exists in now. Now, can we look here and say that it's all crap? Absolutely, because it is. But don't come here and try to explain things to us. This is just the reality of it, and it sucks, and it's messy. But just because something is unfair or it seems like, well, this doesn't seem like it should be right. That's how college athletics is now. There's a lot of things going on that you will look at and you will go and think for 5 seconds about and go, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem like that's healthy for the competitive nature of college athletics. But none of that stuff matters anymore. That stuff is gone. That stuff doesn't exist anymore. So it's look, it's a lot. There's a lot of different viewpoints on it. Obviously, if you're an Alabama fan, you're probably going to feel different about it than if you're a fan base of any other program. That's just the reality of it. But when it comes to the ideas of rules, there aren't rules. That's the whole point. That's why we are here in this situation to begin with. But a lot of you chiming in still, 205-834-9450. We'll continue on your text, your calls, your thoughts. A lot of different opinions on Charles Bediako. We'll get to it next.
6:49 here on Morning Jocks. Damien and Conrad here with you for a few more moments as we get you set for Mac and Cube coming up at the top of the hour. Let me tell you about our friends at Hometown Roofing and Restorations. Trust the experts for your roofing needs. Over 1,200 roofers in the Birmingham area. Make sure you can call someone you can trust. Hometown Roofers is family-owned, grounded in faith, and community-oriented. Their customer satisfaction focused with your needs in mind, so you can count on honest communication. Listen, guys, the goal is to get it right the first time. If it's an insurance claim, call Hometown. They'll take the ball for you, so you don't have to worry about the red tape and the back and forth with the insurance company. Only top-quality materials. Hometown is certified with 2 best national brands of shingle, and they offer lifetime material warranties. Financing is also available. One, if you have an aging roof or roof damage, Hometown offers free inspections. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Also, Hometown Roofing and Restoration can handle siding, windows, gutter, and minor remodels. Give them a call at 205-984-4777 or visit htroofers.com. Again, that number is 205-984-4777 or htroofers.com. Hometown Roofing and Restorations, do it right the first time.
A lot of you wanting to chime in on the Bediako thing, and I'll just go and tell you, sorry, we're not going to have time for everybody because there's just so many people weighing in with their thoughts on everything that's going on. So if you're just joining us, he was denied his litigation yesterday, so he is his injunction, yesterday. So he's ineligible to play now for the Alabama Crimson Tide moving forward. And a lot of people chiming in with how, messy the whole situation is. Some of you are mad because you think Alabama cheated this whole time, which, again, just to set the record straight, Damien and I have never sat up here and told you that we think this is the greatest thing ever. We all think it's a bunch of crap too, but the reality of it is, this is the world you live in. And if you can get a competitive advantage, you get a competitive advantage. Why do you think people are going and getting 23-year-old kids from European countries? Because it gives them an advantage. They're not doing it because I think they'd really benefit from the American education. They're doing it because it's what's good for their basketball team. We don't have to like it. We don't have to approve of it. In a lot of ways, we don't. It's just the reality of it. And you don't have to like the way that Alabama went about it, but they went the legal route of making him eligible to play for 5 games, and now he's not eligible. So you don't have to like the rules, but Alabama did not break a rule by having him play. He was ruled eligible. He is now not eligible. If he were to play on Wednesday, that would be breaking a rule.
Simple.
See the difference? There's a difference.
There's just difference.
All right. Let's get back to the text line here. A lot of you chiming in. It says, guys, he was ineligible. The reason the NCAA needs Congress is because these players invoke the legal system. As soon as the TRO was granted, the NCAA can't do anything. Bediako was ineligible, sued, and got NCAA out of it on a restraining order. The NCAA can't make or enforce the law. Exactly. And that's a major problem in college athletics because that's why this stuff happens.
Exactly.
We had somebody else that chimed in, and they're saying, Conrad, LOL, I'm an Alabama fan through and through, but what rule says he was eligible to play? The problem is they are making up the rules as they go. That would be the temporary restraining order that granted him eligibility to play. He said, it's like a NASCAR race trying to get Dale Jr. a win. Technically, I think he was ineligible and should have never played. I hate Alabama had to be the sample size for this. And I totally get that. If you're on the Alabama side and you're like, this is embarrassing that our program even did this, I understand that sentiment. I agree with that too in certain regards. I also understand, just like any other coach, you don't have to like it. Look, first, I understand. Nobody's going to like Nate Oates. Like, a lot of people don't like the guy. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. This one says, imagine if Luka Doncic didn't go to the NBA but went to college instead after playing professional ball overseas. He would have averaged 40 points a game. He's almost doing that in the NBA. Yeah.
It's a fact.
He'd be great. Granted, he would never come to college because he's too good, but yes. If he wanted to, if he just wanted to tool around with it a little bit, he could. All right, let's go to the phone lines here. Robert in Pelham wants to chime in, get his thoughts in on Bediako. What's going on, Robert?
Hey, good morning, man. I just had a question. So I think you answered it. You did say that he was ruled ineligible to play. So I know that they said that he was, that he could go to school, he could pay for his own way. But my question was, could he walk on and play? But if he's ruled ineligible to play, then that answered that. So, and then two, if Alabama had to cheat to get less than a mediocre player, by all means, cheat. All right, take care.
Thanks, Robert. I mean, again, yeah, it's not
right.
Again, I understand why people are upset about it, but it's not like they didn't go 5-0.
No.
I mean, I think the most points he had in a game was 13. Now, granted, he helped, right? Like, I'm not sitting here and acting like he wasn't a factor. Does Alabama beat Auburn on Saturday without Bediako? There's a good chance they don't. Like, I think that's a fair argument if you want to make that, but
I guess we'll never know.
I guess we'll never know. This one says, all right, let's take NIL out of it. Does Nate Oates bring him back into play without NIL? I say no. I think he absolutely would. You wouldn't have to pay him.
Right.
You could still bring him back.
Bring him back.
You'd be more likely to bring him back, probably, if that was the case. Let's see. This one says, I'm not sure what anybody wants the NCAA to do. They try to enforce the rules, convoluted as they are, and they get taken to court. Yeah, I mean, because at this point, there's a long track record for years now of people taking the NCAA to court and winning.
100%.
So why wouldn't you take? I mean, you might as well, right?
Yep.
You might as well. Let's see. Someone says, does this mean he has to go to class now? That's a good.
Yeah, you got to play school now, buddy.
That's a good one. See, this one just says, Alabama wins need to be vacated this year. Cheating ass Bammers.
All three of them.
All three of them.
All three of them.
See, that's the thing that people don't want to have the conversation about, and we'll see how it ends up. But Alabama would probably still get in the tournament if you took those wins away.
Right.
But that's fine. Says Nate should go sign 2 7-foot Croatian players. Maybe he will. We're back tomorrow at 6. Mac and Cube is next.